Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome back to the Rock the Stage Show. It's Sunday night once again, and we are back with a great conversation on coming up this evening. And it's really based on one phrase, one concept we're going to get in tonight. But we're going to have a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of music, a little bit of maybe philosophy. We're going to have a great conversation with our guests tonight. But some of the greatest ideas, some of the greatest innovations of all time simply started with this question that we're going to get into tonight. I wonder what you think about the idea of what if. What if is one of the most powerful questions. It's usually not used too often because it often opens up a can of worms. Or sometimes people don't even know how to express the what if, the dreams, the ideas that have always kept secret. But what if we talk about what if wide open and freely here tonight? That's what we're going to get into this evening. Mike Rayburn is a world-class guitarist and comedian, having headlined Carnegie Hall multiple times, as well as headlining his own show on the Las Vegas Strip at Planet Hollywood. I've walked by there. That's a cool joint. By the way, his instrumental versions of Bohemian Rhapsody and The Devil Went Down to Georgia are just a couple of his masterful adaptations. And he has a little twist with them, and we may get into some of that here tonight. Welcome to Rock the Stage Show tonight. My guest, Mike Rayburn, and come on in. Mike is here.
Peace, thank you, man. That was a great introduction.
I want to be like Mike.
I keep trying.
You know, right off the bat, I'm going to get into this a little bit because two of your favorite words seem to be experience and expression. Experience and expression. I find it on your website. I find it in some of your other anecdotes and things. But where do you think that comes from? Why is experience and expression so important to you?
Wow, that's an interesting observation. I've never heard that before, but you're right. It's a great point. Experience. Well, expression is the art. So expression is to me, is a very all-encompassing term. And my quick summation of that would be the art. That's the art side of what I do. And then there's the experience, and that's what we've learned. That's where the wisdom comes from, the knowledge, the things that we apply, the craft to the things that we do. In other words, it's expression for me to want. In my new keynote coming up, I have a story about my friend Toby when we were growing up. And the expression part of that is to tell the story. The experience part of that is to apply the craft to it. There's a way to tell a story and a way not to, or degrees of good, good, better, best. And right. So that's what those two mean to me right off. Oh, and there's and you get this probably as much or more than anyone, and that is the amount of experience that one gains from literally more than 5,000 shows in front of an audience. It gives you a confidence when you walk on stage to go, you know what? I'm probably going to be able to handle it. No matter what happens, I've probably dealt with something like that before. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Now, here's a quote that I found from you. And it's all about this idea of failure to express, which I think is very interesting, especially in the business world. But you said, ultimately, our lives and even our businesses are our greatest opportunity for expression. Why do you think businesses miss that? Why are we failing to express in our businesses? Because it should be some of the most fun, creative environments if we understand how we do that better. Why aren't we doing that, do you think?
I think most people, and this is just a general statement, but most people tend to look at business as a way to make money. Okay. Yeah. And that's not wrong. That's true. However, what I find is that profit is not just a result of having, gained more money than what you spent on putting something out there.
Right.
Profit is kind of like the trophy. the real race and winning the race is what's most important. And so that's, I think you could kind of bring in what Simon Sinek says about start with why.
Yes.
Why we do what we do. In other words, if my sole goal in walking on stage is to get money, that's going to make that's going to be a very different presentation than if my sole goal going on stage is to reach these people, is to uplift them, is to make them laugh, is to make them cry, is to make them be impressed with some crazy guitar thing, to take them to a new place. And so I feel like when we focus, business, this is true for businesses. It's why I resonate a lot with like credit unions and community banks, ones that are in the community. It's because there's a sense of purpose there. There's a sense of purpose for a lot of financial advisors. There's a sense of purpose for leaders. There's a sense of purpose. And what I want us to do is to tap into that and let that be the driving force so that we come up with a new definition of success. It's one thing to say your definition of success is we made 32% more profit this year than we did last year. Okay, that's good. I'm not shooting that down. I'd love to do that. And at the same time, if we define success as who did I uplift? Whose life did I change? Who did I create a retirement for? Who did I, teachers, what a sense of purpose, right? What children did I reach and make a difference for? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. No, so now I'm going to go even deeper because you wove this great to where my mind was thinking all week as I prepared for this. You have another phrase out there, laughter the prophet. Yeah, the idea of laughter, of joy. And again, I think businesses are missing this. The laughter, the joy of being in business does take you the profit. But we're not laughing. We're not having fun reaching that goal, are we?
Yeah. And also, it speaks to the way you want to live. I mean, do you want to live your life just struggling for something, or do you want to live your life in more of joy, laughter, fun, reaching people, feeling gratitude, and of course, gratitude is probably the most important thing we've mentioned so far. And so, and to bring us back to what if, I believe this all comes down to that. What if speaks to possibility thinking. It speaks to keeping your brain open, and there's one thing I want to address, because when you brought up the what if, and you entered that perfectly, really good. Here's what I get from a lot of people who will say, yeah, but what about the negative what ifs? A lot of people find themselves mired in doubt and in pessimism, thinking, oh no, what if this goes wrong? What if that person doesn't show up? What if this client dumps me? What if this person says yes or doesn't say yes? Whatever. And here's the thing. Those are equally valid. The difference is how we look at them. Because if you say, what if everything goes wrong and I don't make my quota this month? Or you can look at that as a pessimistic thing. Or you could just answer the question. Okay, what if you don't make your quota? What are you going to do? It's a motivating thing. It's just the way you look at it. If you turn that around, you've accurately identified a potential problem, adversity. So solve it. It gives you the chance to solve the problem before it happens.
But I think you're also landing on one of the pain points, because people normally do what if the bad, what if the bad. Turn that around. What if the profit comes in higher? What if the gig comes through that I didn't expect? What if I got an opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall? What if? What do you do with the what if then?
Yeah. A friend of mine named Sherry Fitz did a presentation I saw recently, which said, what if she wasn't using what if, but the basic point was, what if it does work out?
Right.
What if the dreams do come true? Right. How would that go? And I think this is biblical, Philippians 4:8. This is philosophical, the Stoics and everyone else. What if we create that positive vision for the way things are? What if we live in that place most of the time? Like right now I'm digging into more marketing. I need to do my own outbound marketing and sales and things like, which is not something that most artists are desiring to do in life. And I'm going, what a great way to do this. So what if I could do that, be successful at it, and enjoy the process? Wow, that's a different question than what if I have to get up and make 5 sales calls today? Okay.
Right.
It's different. It's just the facts are no different.
Yes.
The perspective is different. And therefore, my friend Michelle Villalobos uses this: energy precedes outcome. Energy precedes outcome. The energy with which you create something equals the energy of that thing that you created. So if I go into these sales like, this is going to be great, check one off. They said, no, fine, we'll move to the next one. Rather than, oh man, they hate me,
Well, also, if you don't ask the question of what if in the positive way we're talking about it, when the call does come, you're not ready to step into it. You're already
Right.
on your heels saying, well, I'm never going to get the call. I'm never going to get the call. Instead of, I'm ready to step into it.
Absolutely, because it prepares you for, and that's the whole thing about luck. Luck is merely the point where the line of preparation crosses the line of opportunity. So you're prepared with your mindset, you're prepared with your abilities, you're prepared with your knowledge of the product, you're prepared. Oh, when you got an opportunity to do it, boom, then it happens. You know what I'm
So
saying?
let's go to Carnegie Hall for a second. What was it like the first time you stepped in? I mean, my gosh, what an iconic location.
Yep.
The people that have been there before you, but what's it like for you to walk through and go, I'm in Carnegie Hall on stage and the lights are on me?
Yeah, no, there's a Ron White line that I use sometimes. Like when the first time when I walked out on stage there, the first for sound check, and I'm there with my guitar. We're gonna plug in. I'm gonna be playing Carnegie Hall, and I'm walking out on stage, and I'm thinking nobody's stopping me. Nobody's stopping. You know, and 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 I'm waiting for someone from backstage to go, "Hey, we didn't mean you. Get back."
Right. Bring the hook out.
And there's, on one hand, there's the level of, okay, I'm going to be standing in the same place that everyone from John Lennon to Thelonious Monk to literally Tchaikovsky himself have stood.
Right.
And it's not hard to get a little imposter syndrome in that situation. Or the thing that speaks to the what if side of this is how I got there. Because people say, well, how'd you get to Carnegie Hall? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the old joke is practice. Well, yeah, practice. You could also get in a cab and say, take me to Carnegie Hall. That'll do it. But anyway, what happened was, I'll paraphrase this, but it's important. There's an important point I'm summing up here. I was playing colleges. For 16 years, I played 1,800 college shows all over the U.S. and Canada. That was my gig. And this is the same time I was writing for Sony in Nashville, and I was doing other things. But that was my main gig, was live performance, and I would do 150 shows a year.
Right.
And at colleges. And I wanted to get beyond the college market. And my agent at the time was representing a group called 1964 The Tribute. They're considered, Rolling Stone magazine called them the best Beatle tribute band ever. And there's entire conventions of Beatle tribute bands. So there's a lot of them. Anyway, so I asked my agent, I said, let me open for them for free, because they were selling 1,000 to 3,000 seats everywhere they went. Okay, all these theaters, they're selling out.
Yeah.
So I said, tell the promoter I'll open the show for free. Just let me sell my CDs afterwards. And you can tell how old it was because I said CDs. It was mid '90s, and it took me a while to talk him into it because he wasn't into bold moves. However, I did, and I started doing it. And so I would make more money on CD sales than I did on a regular gig. So I would get to do about 2 of these a year. Fast forward, that was about 1996, something like that. Fast forward, 2003, this guy gets involved with 1964, a guy named Mark Johnson, wonderful man, who told my agent, I want to take them to Carnegie Hall. And my agent said, you can't play Carnegie. They can't play Carnegie Hall. They're a Beatle tribute band, which tells me I have the wrong agent. But anyway, side note. So he gets them, bottom line is that he gets them into Carnegie Hall, and they need an opening act. If they had chosen any other tribute band, it would become a commodity night. It's a tribute night. We're going to tribute to bands.
Yes.
They don't, 1964 is not an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
However, if they have someone who's not like that, like, oh, maybe me, open the show, then it doesn't change. They still become this thing, this iconic, Beatle tribute band. So my agent calls me and says, Mike, do you want to play Carnegie Hall? And I said, let me think about it. I'll call you back. No, I said, Carnegie freaking Hall. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And so they needed an opening act. So
let's get into your music, because you're a world-class guitarist, but you also blend comedy. You bring comedy to music.
Yeah.
Was that what you did at Carnegie? You did the whole comedy guitar routine?
Yes. So I had it was comedy and guitar. In fact, there was obviously it wasn't
Right.
speaking, because now I'm a
Right.
speaker, so I use guitar and comedy to teach what if and perform like a virtuoso. So there, yeah. What I do is, like, first, here's a piece I started with. This is how I walk out. I'm gonna try to do this so
Okay.
that you guys can see it. And here, so yeah, it doesn't. So my head won't be in the shot, but that's okay.
It worked for Waylon Jennings.
So I start out. I walk. So I went, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Rayburn, and I walk out on stage and I go.
Oh. Woo!
Boom.
I took guitar lessons and I never got to do that. So congratulations. You fabulous. By the way, who are your musical influences growing up?
Growing up, my first favorite singer, the first songs I ever played were Johnny Cash. Absolutely. I used to watch his TV show. The first song I ever, like, I was like, just kind of walked out with my family, and I was just kind of sitting around I remember what it was, the kitchen table. And I was just sitting there, and I went, I hear the train a coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in the folds of prison. Yeah, so that was where I started.
So I'm kind of curious. Did you begin as a rocker yourself and then flip over to the comedic storytelling side? Where did your career transition from?
Great question. I started off by playing well, other than Johnny Cash, I have an aunt who's only 8 years older than me, and she was at the Beatles' first Shea Stadium, their first concert in the U.S., and she was front row to see them in Washington, D.C. It's hard enough to find somebody who saw the Beatles live, let alone someone who saw them twice. Yeah. That's my aunt. So I'm 4 years old. She's bouncing me on her knee, going, "Ready? John, Paul, George, Ringo." Okay. And so she got me listening early. So it was the Beatles, and then the acoustic 70s, John Denver, Jim Croce, the Eagles, a little bit of James Taylor, and then the later ones that followed up, Poco and Firefall. And so I liked that kind of stuff. Also, though, the edge to me was I grew up in the South, and so I still am. My all-time favorite band is
wow.
And so I was playing,
Oh.
And of course,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, anyway.
So then you go from that, and eventually you end up being a comedic storyteller with a guitar. So where did that come in?
Great question. Again, because I realized I didn't finish answering the question. I was in high school. I was in 10th grade. And there was a funny song that came out on the radio. Jim Stafford did a song called "The Wildwood Weed," which was a takeoff on "The Wildwood Flower."
Okay.
and but it was about weed. And so it was a parody. And so the wildwood flower grew out on the farm. We never knowed what it was called. You know, some says flower, some says, one day I reached down for a weed to chew on. I picked up wildwood flower. Things got fuzzy, things got blurry, and then everything was gone. And it goes on. It's okay. So I sang that at an assembly in our high school. I went to Thomas Jefferson High School in Northern Virginia for 2 years. And so we had an assembly and I played it, and everybody laughed at all the lines. And I
Yeah.
loved that. That was fun. So I started doing funny songs as a
Right.
regular thing. And then I started playing bars, and I would do funny songs within what I was doing. And I didn't know how to, it took a long time for me to figure this out, but what this is literally the progression is I would do like take it easy, take it easy. I would do that. And then I think, okay, now that was a non-funny song.
Right.
Now I'll do a funny song. And then I'll do a non-funny song. And then I'll do a funny song and whatever. And one day I remember where I was at this little college in North Carolina. And I thought, what if I do more than one comedy song
Yeah.
back to back? And so I did it. And what happened is the laughter, it's like
Yeah.
compound interest. It was a snowball. It just went in the right direction. And that was probably my first show being a comedian. And I still didn't identify that
Right.
way. I didn't think that way. So then I did a show years later. I did a show at, well, not too long later, at Eastern Illinois University. And they sent me the newspaper article about the show, you know, a week afterwards. And the headline said, comedian Mike Rayburn rocks the lounge or whatever. And I went, comedian? I'm not, I'm not a comedian. I mean, I do funny. I'm not. And then I thought about my
Right.
set that I did that night. And I went, that's almost all comedy. And so there came this point where I thought, I did in the year 2000, I did a real personal reckoning. And we all need to do
Yep.
those once in a while, I think. And my personal reckoning was, okay, what works? And what was working was number one, comedy. The reason people were booking me, number one was comedy. Number two was my
Yeah.
guitar work. A distant third was my original songs. So I went, I'm a guitarist and comedian. Run with that. And when I did, and then there's another thing that happened in there. So I started doing that. And then I was playing Zanies
Yeah.
Comedy Club in Nashville. I was headlining there. And I finished the show, and my friend Jana Stanfield, and you might know Jana, or I know
Yeah.
Robert knows her. Jana Stanfield is a song. She wrote Reba McEntire's "If I Had
Oh.
Only Known," the hit after her band
Yeah.
crashed in the plane crash. Jana wrote that song, and she wrote a number of other hits. And she's one of my best friends to this day. And she saw me, and I would do this little motivational thing at the end, even at a comedy club. And she said, "Mike, you're clean, you're funny, you have a message, you're a speaker, and you don't
That's
even
what I was
know
going to
it."
ask you. How did you
And
get
I
into that
said,
trade now?
and I said, what do you mean? What's a speaker? And she'd explain it. I said, you mean like a motivational speaker? And she said, yeah. I said, oh, it planted the seed. And so I realized as I examined it that I could do something with keynote presentations that was not being done. I like to do
Right.
things no one's ever done. And so there was no one teaching innovation and creativity, illustrating with crazy guitar and comedy. No one was doing that. I didn't know if it would work. So I didn't have anybody say, oh, well, he's doing it, so I will. I just tried it and I hit a niche. Thank God
Yeah.
I hit a niche and it worked. So I've grown it since then. And so the great thing is it gives me the ability to live in the three places that I live. Number one, well, yes, obviously guitar work. I love comedy. I study how comedy works. I probably listen to comedians more than I listen to guitarists, and then speakers, and bring in the wisdom, the life principles, the personal development, the business
Right.
strategies as well. So I real and so it hit a niche, and so now I'm just kind of running with that as
Well,
far as
you're a Hall of Fame speaker. You're a two-time TEDx
Mhm,
presenter. So people
right.
evidently are listening. They like this unique
So far,
combination you've blended together. Did you ever think you would take it into the business inspirational side where you're helping businesses learn about experience and what if. Did you ever think you would fall into that?
No, in fact, not only that, but I was kind of the opposite, thinking, and this is one of the big misconceptions of all time. It's caused so much misery, and that is to think that business is antithetical to art.
Wow.
It's not. But there are plenty of artists. I'll tell you, their financial plan is to out earn their ignorance. Um, Seriously, that's what they're trying to do. So in other words, if I make enough money, then that makes up for the fact that I don't know what I'm
Right.
spending it on. And it's a horrible plan. And I've, by default, not intention, but I've defaulted into that a couple times in my life. But anyway, so uh, I kind of came up with this thing that I've written. It's going to be on my new website. I'm close on my new website, almost done, and where I talk about art. I say, okay, when businesses want to be more innovative, more creative, perform at peak levels,
Yes.
where do they go? Speakers, business speakers, sometimes sports figures. Rarely do they go to artists. But for artists, that's our lifeblood. We live and die on our ability to be creative, innovative, and perform at peak levels under pressure. And then I say, just like your teams. Therefore, I am uniquely qualified to share artistic principles in a business context so that people can be more creative, more innovative, and have better conferences.
It's way more fun, way more fun. So the innovation, excuse me, the innovation's
Yeah.
great. I also found this great quote on you, which I absolutely love. Managing change is stupid. Managing
Yo,
change is stupid because we're trying to control the innovation. We're trying to control the creative juices. We're trying to control the people that want to take us somewhere else. And I think you're right. But again, we don't recognize
yeah,
it.
exactly. And to go deeper with that phrase, it's actually from Peter Drucker, and he said, managing change is not only stupid, it's dangerous. The only way to manage change is to create change, or my words, to be the ones who define the curve rather than follow it, which is what I wanted to do as a speaker. It's what I wanted to do in a few other ways I've done it. But that's what I want us. That is the mindset shift. I had to be careful on that one. That I want to create in audiences, the mindset that we are not reacting to what's coming in, we are proactively shaping what's going
Uh,
out.
so does that stick with the audience? Does the music stick more than the teaching, or do they blend together because the music helps them remember what you're teaching? How does it really play out?
The latter is what I'm hoping for, and that's what I've explained. And I think that's generally the case. Is what I want is when they hear Bohemian Rhapsody, they remember, oh yeah, Rayburn played that on. He did all the parts on one guitar, and it was about thinking big. Remember to think big. Okay, so in other words, it becomes an anchor.
Yes,
So when they
yes.
hear that song, or I do one where I sing the top 8 songs of the 1980s, all to the tune of Every Breath You Take. I can do that if you want, but I do that. And with the idea that when they hear any one of those songs, they'll remember back to that thing and go, oh, yeah, that's right. Leading change, because that's
So
about change.
sensory experiences. And businesses, again, fail at sensory experiences with their employees, their teams, their clients. They miss it. But you just said it. It works.
Yes. And one of the ways I say that is I say content is critical, but content doesn't change people. If it did, you could just give them a book. What changes people is the experience attached to that content. And that's my expertise.
What if, let's go back to our question here. What if more business applied that to their companies? They went for the experience,
Oh, well,
they went for the expression.
oh, well, yes. What they'd create is an army of innovators. What they'd create, if you've got everybody asking that, they're going to create a, a force that finds solutions. In fact, here's a great story on that. This is directly from What If. I presented my What If keynote for a company called Orscheln. Orscheln owns 170 or so farm and home retail stores in 11 states in the Midwest. It's like a farm version of Home Depot. And they're awesome. I love this company. I love the people there. And I presented for them, all their managers and assistant managers, in February of 2019. March of 2019, devastating floods wiped out Nebraska. It was a famous thing back then. And a guy named Evan Couch was the manager of the Orchland store in Seward, Nebraska. He and his team show up at 6:30 in the morning. They're opening at 8. They show up at 6:30 in the morning to find all but one little section of the parking lot underwater and frozen because it's Nebraska. What do you want? And there had been 2 inches of flood water throughout the store. It had receded, but anybody who's watched the news after a flood knows that's a muddy, horrible mess. It stinks. Right. It's just everything's wrong. And the problem was not only the lost revenue, because they knew they weren't going to be able to open that day, but they were thinking they might not even be ready to open the next day. And the problem wasn't just the lost revenue. The community was depending on the products that they in particular sell to be able to clean up, dig out, repair, all that, the shovels and the things that they needed, right? So Evan, his team is out assessing the damage. They come back together, and Evan did this exactly as I teach it in the keynote. It's textbook. He said, okay, this is crazy, but what if we had to open today by 8 a.m.? And we're talking, this is like 45 minutes away. Pause the story. What that did was it shifted everyone's thinking from problem and scarcity to solution and abundance. Everybody has great brain power. We just have to direct it. We have to channel it, especially as leaders. That's our job. Yes. And so you have great, capable people. Just point them in the right direction. That's what he did. So here's what they did. They posted someone at the front of the parking lot to direct traffic to the only place they could park. There was no way they were going to clean that whole store. But they realized they did have enough time to clean up just the front area near the registers. So they went back to the 1800s is what they did. In the 1800s, a shop, you didn't walk through a store and pick up what you needed and take it to the front counter. You told a shopkeeper what you wanted, gave them a list, and they went back through the store and picked it up, right? So that's exactly what they brought in, a couple extra employees with boots on, and they would take a list from the person, go back through the store and get the products, bring them up. They opened on time at 8 a.m. They had a full day of sales, plus they built a bond with the community that had not existed before because they saw how crazy these people were just to serve. That's the power of what if.
I'll try to one-up you here because Erwin McManus is a pastor in California, which I follow and I love. They go from different locations and they have pop-up church and stuff, but one of them is a nightclub in LA. They lost power. LA had a blackout. They had already told everybody they're going to this location. This is where you're going to show up. So they had one of those what if moments. We can't cancel. We can't redirect everybody. There's no time. So they circled all their cars up, turned on all their headlights, and they did church in the parking lot in downtown LA. The same thing happened. The community went, oh my gosh, we don't have to go inside even. We can be right here. And it changed the dynamic of leadership, vision, community. It changed everything in a blink of an eye because they were not afraid to ask, what if?
Exactly. And you said it right. I love the way you said that. It changed the dynamic. What happened there is you co-opt people into thinking we're all in on something here. We have a problem to solve collectively.
Mike Rayburn, I am going to bring up your website. We've talked about it a little bit, but people can scan the website, learn more about it. You look at him with the hat, the jacket, the guitar, rocking. What are they going to find when they go to the website?
First of all, they're going to find, well, right now, they're finding my previous site, which is I'm changing it. I told you that. So what they're going to find is, first of all, a presentation of what I do. I'm a guitar, comedy, the message. You're going to find on the new one. This is important. We're going to find I have two keynotes. I have the what if keynote, which is all we've been talking about today. I just finished writing a new one called Perform Like a Virtuoso. I have performed it 3 times. And only once for money, because you got to work it out. You got to, So you're going to find out about. Ultimately, you're going to find out about both of those. But right now, you find about what if. You'll get to go deeper in the ways that I can present. Meaning, I do keynote presentations. Usually, it's an opening or a closing because of the entertainment value, the energy, the high energy level. And also, you'll find out where the other things I can do.
Make sure you
Rayburn.com.
check out the website, the QR code there. And also, now I've got a couple fun. We always wind down with a little bit of fun here on the show. We got to have a little bit of what if
Okay.
in our life, right? So what if you could form a band with 3 other legendary musicians, living or past? Who would be your
Oh
all-time dream
man,
band lineup?
I compliment you for coming up with a question that in an interview I have never been asked. Um, Dang, that's good. And these are off the top of my head. Uh, as far as people that people have heard of, I would probably want John Bonham as my drummer. John Bonham
Yeah.
from Led Zeppelin. I think he's probably the greatest rock drummer alive. Now, you don't know this guy. His name is Larry London. He played with Journey. He played with the Beach Boys. He played with King Crimson. He's played with everybody. He's a studio guy. He's passed away. He passed away 25, 30 years ago. He played on my first album. Uh, and so I would put him in there. But let's go with
Okay.
John Bonham.
You-
On bass, I forget the guy's name exactly, but the bass player for Journey. Everyone knows Neil Schon for his crazy guitar work and Steve Perry for his
Yep.
unbelievable vocals. If you listen to the guts of that band, that bass player on almost every hit is doing something way different, way cooler than almost anyone. So I love that guy. So I would have him as my bass player. On keyboards, I'd have the Porcaro brother that
Ooh.
plays keys. There's Steve Porcaro and they were from
Yes.
Toto.
Yes.
Yeah. So the guy who does those
I
like this like the solo on
Yes.
Africa, those kind of things. Yeah. And if I had another guitarist, okay, for fun, it would be Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, what?
For making a practical band, it would probably be Steve Lukather. Again,
Yeah.
Toto, but also he's the guy playing the non Eddie Van Halen guitars on Beat It. He's the guy playing on countless hit songs.
So here's another one for you. Imagine you're not on stage, but you're at a karaoke bar.
Yes.
What's your go-to song that would surprise everybody in the room? What would be your karaoke surprise song?
Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi.
Really?
Yeah. I have a gravelly voice, and I do. It's all the same. Only the names will change every day. Seas will waste it away. That's
Woo! Now that's a great way to wind down, rock the stage. That's a great way to close it out. Mike,
perfect.
I thank you so much for being here this evening. Any final thoughts, comments? Because this has been a blast. This has absolutely been a blast to have you on. Robert Stack, our mutual friend, my showrunner, was the guy that connected us. So thank you, Robert, again for a dynamite show. But final comments, thoughts before we let you go today.
Sure. First of all, you did this wonderfully. I have so enjoyed this experience, and that's not always the case. And you're just brilliant at it. So I mean, you've been witnessing my artistry and things I do. I want to witness that for you because you're freaking great at this. And also, I just invite connection. If you email me, mike@mikerayburn.com, I'll finish with this. When I'm counseling new speakers and they're kind of like working out what their message is, I ask them this question: what is it you just want to shake the world to get them to know or understand or change? And that's where you need to go. And so for me, when I answer that question is I want the world to realize you are capable of so much more than you realize. All you need is the right mindset and a few tools. And that's where I come in. I supply the mindset and the tools.
Mic drop at the end of Rock the Stage by Mike Rayburn. Mike, thank you very much, my friend.
Peace, bro.
Rock the Stage show Sunday nights. We always tell you, you don't know who's going to show up. It's highly unscripted, but we got music tonight. We got comedy tonight, and we got a lot of passion. But again, ask yourself, what if? What if you start thinking the way Mike's talking about? What if you start thinking about your career, your family? What if That's the question of the week from Rock the Stage Show. My name is Rich Bontrager, the Trigger. We'll be back next week once again with another exciting show. Join us Sunday nights for the watch party at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. And then catch us on Bravehearts TV Network, Roku, Amazon Fire, and IPTV as these shows shift on over to other platforms as well. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll be back next week for another edition of Rock the Stage Show.